Shout out Sniper T on the beat.
Tamara to the break of dawn is on the rise, with life on the forefront of the mind. So line for line, you can ride this brain train and you can change your station without even touching the dial. So relax, stay a little bit, but listen for a while. And whether you're bumping this in the whip or in a business fit, it's a meeting you won't want to miss. A meeting for a meal to feed the soul with words for the mind. So sit back, enjoy the ride. Time to take off, it's time to fly. Cause Tamara till the break of dawn is on the rise.
Hey, y'all. It's me, Tamara. Yes. Thank you so much for tuning in and welcome to the show. Listen, man. And it's funny because I thought I was done crying, and then as soon as I sat down to record, we'll see what happens this episode, because this week has been, this week has been a week where I have been faced with the reality of, I guess we'll just say being forced to be a little bit more honest with myself, being forced to really tap into how I'm feeling in even a deeper way. And it has been a really tough week. It's wild. And it's interesting because it's leading up to Easter, right? And so for those of us who are believers, we know that on Good Friday, so that was technically yesterday at the time of this recording, is when Jesus died on the cross for our sins. And then, you know, when we celebrate Easter, it's because of him resurrecting from the dead and all that good stuff. And it's like, there's the crucifixion, but if there was no resurrection, then none of this matters. You know what I mean? It's just, a good man died. It's the whole point that he rose again. That's the most important part. And it's really interesting because, you know, I've been, we'll say, actually serious, about my relationship with the Lord for the last almost 17 years. Yeah, 2007. But it hasn't been until this year that I've really just reflected on the resurrection and really just reflected on, by believing in what he did, I'm going to go to heaven. But it's also like, I can have freedom now. I can, have peace now. I can have joy now. I can be secure in who I am now. I can, all these things. And it's interesting because with that, as I said, this has been a really, really tough week. Maybe at a later point, I'll talk about why. Y'all know how I am. I'll tell y'all later. But it's like, amidst this being a really tough week, this is my first year, first of all, ever in life being in full-time ministry as my job or whatever, which still just, it's wild because like I'm the marketing director and do project management. So it's like, this is a job that I could do literally anywhere that has, I guess we'll say, creativity as a part of what they do. However, it's ministry. And so this is my first time being in full-time ministry ever. Like, it hasn't even been 6 months, but then also being in full-time ministry as we prepare for Easter, being at a church that is heavily focused on creating content of all different types, right? And that's not, like, none of that has anything to do with why this has been a tough week for me. So let me say that. But it's having a tough week and being in ministry is a really interesting thing because, like, we had a Good Friday worship encounter last night, and one of the people on our team, he asked me, he was like, "You doing okay?" And after some further, clarification of, because I forget what word he used, but he said my demeanor seemed different. And I was like, well, when? And he pinpointed it to the day before when we had dress rehearsal for our Easter stuff. And that was a really, really tough day. And it's interesting because I'm in the choir. And so, like, Christmas Eve was the first time me being in the choir. And then we did something else in February. And then we're doing Easter. So it's not like we're up there every week or whatever. But it's like the interesting thing about being in ministry and going through things is that when you go through things and you bring that, I guess we'll just say, energy with you into the environment, other people can sense it, feel it, whatever. And that's true anytime. But the only difference about being in ministry is that, like, I'm there to help other people experience the Lord. I'm there to help others people experience like his best for their lives or whatever. And so it's like, if I get caught up in what I'm going through and like don't actively process stuff that's going on in my heart, it honestly can negatively affect someone else. Because, and I think about that a lot, like so many people have church hurt, not because of anything that God himself did, right? It's because of, from my conversations with people, it's because of a negative experience, that they had with someone like a pastor, or I don't know, somebody like serving in the church or working in the church or whatever, like somebody that's supposed to represent him, right? And so I think about that a lot. Like it is a interesting, I guess we'll say, burden. I don't necessarily like that word because it has a negative connotation, but we'll say a weight to carry. That's a better way to put it, to be in full-time ministry, because it's kind of like I can negatively impact somebody else's view of the Lord based on their interactions with me. I think about that all the time just because I've known so many people that have church hurts and stuff like that. And I'm not going to say I've never been offended by somebody in a church or whatever, but I understand that we're all human. And that's where there's the separation is, it's one thing to be affected by somebody, but I've had enough personal experience with the Lord that I don't make that a him thing when a person offends me. But not everybody is there, and so I think about that. And so it's really interesting because I have had to find the most interesting ways to press through. It has been like just a crazy 6 months in general, but this week has been tough. And then we're also having Easter prep, so it was a lot of long days this week, and trying to be not only just physically present, but like mentally, emotionally, and spiritually present. And so I remember telling some of my coworkers, like, because it's really cool, because when we have meetings or whatever, a lot of times not a lot of times, pretty much I could even say all the time, there's rarely a time we don't start a meeting with what is one thing you're thankful for. And so I was telling them that, I cried a lot this week. Like, I just don't understand how my tear ducts have tears left. Like, yeah, I've cried a lot this week. And there was this one point on Tuesday, it was a day that we were doing, I forget what we were at work. There was like specific things that it's called, but I can't remember off the top of my head. We were at work and there was this point where I had to go in the bathroom, cry, and then come out and keep it moving. Thursday after dress rehearsal, which is so interesting. about him saying that my demeanor was off because I really was struggling. And we're rehearsing and I'm trying to just like press in. And, the nice thing about being in the choir is we're worshiping. So I'm not going to say I'm this top notch vocalist at all. But one thing I do know is that I love to worship and I love to sing and whatever, regardless of how the vocals sound or not. And I did have to audition. So but I remember this point being like, you know what? Because I'm not frontline. So it's like they hear me, but I'm just there to support. They don't like hear me. They hear us as a whole for the choir. And so there are a lot of times where I'm just like, I'm just going to worship and that's all I'm going to focus on. Yes, I'm going to try to match pitch and all that stuff. So I do think about that, but I really, really try not to get into the performance piece of it of like really trying to like, oh, I want to sound good because it's not that. And so, after we had dress rehearsal, I kind of drove around for a while. That's the nice thing about not just having my own vehicle again, but having one that gets really good gas mileage because the work car that I had did not. So I was not trying to ride around and think about anything because I wasn't trying to be wasting gas like that. But the car that I have now gets really, really good gas mileage. And I'm super grateful for that because there are times that I do need to just ride around and think. And so I did that. It's more so ride around and pray. And then came home, parked, thought I was going to go in the house, sat in the car, prayed some more, and just bawled my eyes out. I was in the car for a while. And it's so funny because it's nighttime, but I don't really have tinted windows like that. It's like some super light, pretty much non-existent thing. And I just happened to pause or at least look up and look over to the left and like the man across the street was in his car. And I'm like, I wonder how long he's been there. Did he see me in here talking, crying, whatever? And then I was just like, I don't even care because listen, I'm trying to get some breakthrough right now. And it's interesting because most of my conversations this week have kind of been like wrestling with, should I feel the way that I feel? And then coming to this place of, look, this is all I have to offer you. This is how I feel. So it just is what it is. You know what I mean? Because it's like God knows, you know what I mean? He knows this is how I feel. And ultimately, I even switched up my workouts this week. Like I only went to CrossFit on Wednesday because Wednesday is staff workout. Side note, if y'all hear Gizmo's toy, I apologize in advance. I usually put his toys up when I record because he always want to go grab them, but and I'm not about to snatch it from him. So anyways, yeah, staff workout was Wednesday, but outside of that, I went to a different gym. Now, a lot of that was because the way our work schedule was different this week. And so I have two gym memberships. One is CrossFit. One is at this place called Vasa. And when I go there, all I do is cardio. So I'll literally just put my headphones in and walk on the treadmill or alternate walking and running or whatever. And that's it. Because I do tons of strength stuff with CrossFit. And so when I'm going to Vasa, it's really just to make sure that I'm doing something because I couldn't make it to a CrossFit class based on my schedule or whatever. Because I'm really just trying to get to the point of going really 5 to 6, but for sure like 5 days a week, just because, I am trying to be very serious about this for many reasons. But one reason is just my mind and mood and emotions are just so much better when I'm physically active on a consistent basis. Like this is why a lot of mental health people will, have exercise as part of whatever their care or recommendations are or whatever. And so it's interesting though, because while on the treadmill this week, there were some things that the Lord revealed to me. Like I needed to remove some pride from my heart. I needed to stop getting caught up in fear of man, because there's this, we'll talk about that at a later date, because I don't want to half tell y'all something. So I know this will be something I'll come back to. I won't forget. But yeah, fear of man is something that I was getting caught up in, and not being free to do what I just kind of act on what I feel like I want to do or whatever, based on fear of man. And so I had to kind of like get a lot of that stuff situated. And then it's just been being honest with myself about even what I want, because yeah, so it's been a crazy, crazy week. But the nice thing is that I was able to press through. You know what I mean? I was able to not even just press through, but I feel like get some freedom and breakthrough, because I really just kept going. I mean, man, listen. And crying, like for me, oftentimes when I don't know what to do with whatever, but I just cry. And I didn't used to be like that. So then that's where the thankfulness came in that I was mentioning earlier, because I'm just thankful to be free enough to be in a place to be like, you know what? I'm going to feel these emotions. I'm not going to run from them. And then I'm going to release them. And then, the situation may not change, but at least the stress and anxiety and frustration that I feel in this moment, will go away. And so there's that. But on the other side of that, I just see how much freer I feel. And that fear, man, I see how that was hindering me in so many different ways. And so it's been such I won't even say a bittersweet week. It's been such a just fruitful week, I guess is the word. And with just tons of breakthrough, tons of freedom. And yeah, it's been like, obviously this week was necessary to get to where I'm at and how I'm feeling today. And just the freedom is just, that's the only word that I can use to describe it. I'm just at this place in life where it's just like, I just want to be free. Like, I don't want anything or anyone or any fears or any insecurities to hinder me from doing whatever it is I feel like I want to do in any circumstance. Like, I don't want to live like that. I lived most of my life like that. And the nice, beautiful thing about God and his kindness is that he loved he loves us so much to pursue relationship with us and died for our sins and all that, but he also loves us too much to leave us in a way that is unhealthy and that is contradictory to the way he created us to be, but also like that's going to hinder us from doing whatever it is that either he called us to do or even certain desires that we may have, right? And it's interesting because there's just been this journey that I've been on where in this area of my life, I feel like things are moving forward in the way that I desire them to. But what I've noticed is that there'll be this pause, right? And in the midst of the pause, I've noticed, because as y'all know, I'm a pretty self-aware person, pretty just very, I want to say introspective. I don't even know if that's the word. I should probably look that up at some point just to see what, I'm going to actually look it up right now while I'm on here, because sometimes the reason why I'll look words up, because sometimes I think I know what a word means. And then I look it up and I'm like, yes, it is, or no, it's not. And so Introspective means the process of looking into oneself. Yeah, that's the word I want. So, y'all know I'm a very introspective person. And so I definitely reflect on things a lot. And that's so funny because that little bunny trail made me lose my train of thought of why I even said that, which that hasn't happened in a long time. And this is why, if you're new to this show, in the description it says ride my train of thought, because this is what we're doing right now. And I'm kind of like, these are filler thoughts to try to get back to the original thought, because I know I was going somewhere with that, but I don't really know that that's going to happen right now. And I think I got it. Well, I'm going to go here. And if this don't make sense, I apologize. But I'm a very introspective person. And so I just, can tell when things are just hindering me. I can tell when things are just, I don't know. And so I want to be free. That's just basically where I'm at. I don't want to live life worried about anything or anyone, not in a malicious way, of course, but I'm just saying, like, that's just kind of where I'm at. This week has been, I'd say, lots of breakthrough in that area. So I'm happy about that. But I mean, it was a tough week. It was painful. Like, man, I really wrestled with some things, because it's like, it's the having to feel it part. But it's like, I think about how every day this week there was something, right? And it all started on Sunday, where just worship, even in rehearsal, that's the cool thing about, I go to church a lot earlier now, and I'm usually there pretty much always for worship rehearsal. And it's still them worshiping, right? And so I'm still in the presence of the Lord. And during rehearsal, I felt it stirring up. And then I served on the broadcast cam in the first encounter, or service, but we say encounter. And then I just sat, because we're supposed to sit one, serve one if we're serving. And during worship in both encounters, mind you, I'm on the broadcast cam during the first one, I'm crying. During the second one, man, it just wrecked me. And then it's just like, and then I had a shoot after, a content shoot afterwards. And then I'm crying on the way there. And like, this is how this week has gone. But what I think about when I got to Thursday, when I was finally at the end of myself, and I'm just like, look, whatever it is that's hindering me from, this thing that I am desiring of you, just remove it, because whatever. But listen, every time I had to feel what I was feeling, it was extremely painful. And I was talking to one of the worship leaders yesterday, and I was telling her, I was telling her that if the Lord had just had me feel all of that on Sunday when this began, I feel like I would have been destroyed. Now, that may sound dramatic, but that's how I feel. Like, and she took me to, I can't remember what scripture, where he says something about, this is me super paraphrasing to remember what she said. So that's why I'm not giving y'all no scripture reference, because, I don't want to misquote it, but something like, and I have more, like Jesus was saying, like, and there's more things that I have to show you, but something about like, but it'd be too much for you to handle. Again, as I said, that is me super duper paraphrasing. I might even be misquoting her a little bit. So, but it was something like that. That's how this week was. Like, there was so much more each day that he had to expose to me in my heart. And it's so funny because my gym switch up or whatever, I feel like I was supposed to do that. I feel like that's what the Lord said. And it's interesting because when you work out and you get to this point, because it wasn't like as soon as I got on the treadmill that he would whisper, hey, you need to get rid of your pride, or hey, you need to do this, that, and the other. it wasn't right away. It was after I'm 20, 30, 40 minutes into the walk that then I would just hear this little whisper. And it's like, what I heard someone say recently is like, again, this is me paraphrasing, but it's like there's something about working out that it breaks down almost like your physical defenses in a sense, because you're like pushing your body and whatever, and then it's like, and then you're able to, sometimes it's that allows you to be open to deal with your emotional stuff. There have been times that I've cried after a CrossFit workout or during, and it wasn't because of the workout. It was because what was going on in my heart all through the day or the week or whatever, to where once I'm physically exhausted, then there's this moment where I can like deal with the emotional, like have an emotional release. And so, yeah, that's how this week has been on speaking of snatched 40s journey. I am down another 5 pounds. And so I don't really know where I can't remember. I think maybe I might be down a total of 15 pounds from, we'll say, May, when I kind of starting my journey back up. And I'm at this point where that's why I'm trying to, because it's so funny. Like at the beginning of my journey, I was super on it with the eating piece, not as on it with the workout piece. Like I was doing it, but I wasn't as consistent. Now I'm at a point where I'm super consistent with the workout piece. I'm not going to say I have like terrible eating habits, but they were a lot better before. And so now I'm trying to just kind of get the stuff back together, but then also add more cardio. That's honestly why I got this other membership too, just to like strengthen my cardio. But because sometimes when they have us run and stuff, and I said that on here before, I'll be feeling like I can't breathe. And excuse me, I know that's not how it should be or whatever, so I just got to strengthen my lungs and whatnot. But yeah, so I'm down another 5 pounds. And so that's cool, because it's like they say the scale doesn't matter, and like, no, you shouldn't get caught up in the scale. So I just weigh myself just to see where things are at. But at the same time, it is nice to see progress in the direction that I want to go, and it's just such a dope thing being a part of a community. Like I said earlier, we have staff workouts on Wednesdays. So like we work out together, and there's just such a heavy emphasis of being not just physically healthy, although that's part of it, but, of course, spiritually, but then also mentally and emotionally healthy as well. So, yeah, that has been my week. Thank you so much for tuning in. As I was just saying, make sure you are taking care of yourself mentally. Make sure you are taking care of yourself emotionally. Make sure you are taking care of yourself spiritually. For me, as you can tell, mine is my relationship with the Lord, but we all have spirits. They all need to be healthy. And so for me, that is what helps me to be spiritually healthy. That's why you'll always hear me talk about that. You know what I mean? And then, man, be healthy in your relationships. We're all going through stuff. People you may think are not going through stuff. Like, it's so funny. I danced so much this week during random points of work days or whatever. And this was the toughest week of my life, like emotionally. So like, don't let smiling faces and laughter and all that make you think everybody is all cool. You don't know, but shout out to the people that see, because that's what I said for the man who, we talked a little bit. He encouraged me, and then he had a couple of people come around me and they like prayed for me. And when we were done with all that, how did I say it? I said, thank you for seeing, because he didn't see what was on the outward. He saw what was going on inside that, yeah, and it's like, you could have easily, because I was dancing yesterday, but he said my demeanor was off. So, and it was, so like, man, yeah, the whole point of that is just be healthy in your relationships, right? So thank you so much for tuning in. I love y'all so much, and I will talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Ladies and gents, this concludes transmission. Tune in next time for a whole new edition. Another adventure and mission to share, be heard, and clarify the vision of this whole new world for